pick, pick, pick. I've got to make this look like this. That means these have to go with this. Good morning, everybody. It's Stephen here for Bland Designs, and this is my weekly vlog, and it's number 66 on Monday, May the 7th, 2018. I've got my coffee and the sun is shining, and it looks like it's going to be a beautiful day in early May, which we could use. We just had a big windstorm on this past Friday, and it did a lot of damage. Nothing happened to us. We were lucky, but a lot of things around the area got blown over, like dead trees. Actually, some trees we saw actually uprooted that weren't so dead. You know, some damage because of flying things through the air off of people's, decks and balconies and things like that. And the wind was so strong at times that in certain areas of town, the traffic lights were actually sheared right off the pole. So it wasn't a tornado or a hurricane, but it was pretty powerful winds of over 100 kilometers an hour in some spots. So it was interesting, but as I said, didn't really affect us where we live. So, and I can see that my thing's just a little crooked here at the back, and I'm just checking that, just changing that. So anyways, what's going on? Well, you saw my little teaser at the beginning where I talk about picking out quilt stitches. Yeah, the quilt that I showed you last week, I'm still working on that one, and I had showed you that I quilted it diagonally across each square. Well, I changed my mind after I did 6 of the squares, and each square took probably an hour or so to quilt. I decided to go with parallel lines instead. So that means I have to pick all the stitches out of all those other squares, and I have started that process. I've gotten 4 out of the 6 squares picked, and there is really no fast way to pick them out. I looked on YouTube to see what other people did, to see if there was a technique in ripping out stitches, and really, nope, you just have to be patient with it and pick them out, sort of, not quite one by one, but almost one by one. So it took me about over 2 hours to pick out the first square. I'm getting a little faster. I'm down to about an hour and a half per square. So I only have 2 squares left, so 3 more hours. And those will be picked. I can finish the quilting, get the binding on, and finish that quilt up. And as I mentioned in Stephen and Walter Live, I am going to actually wash this quilt. I'm a little afraid to try that, but that's what quilts are for. If you're going to use them, they need to be washed. And although I'm not really intending to use that particular quilt beyond just, there it is, isn't that nice? I am going to wash it just to see. It's supposed to make the quilting puff up a little bit more. So hopefully things are color fast. So we'll see about that. And thank you to those of you who have recommended different products for putting in your washing machine to help with color bleed. I'm going to look for some of those this week. I'm sure we have them in our country too. It's just I've never ever used the product. In fact, I didn't know such a product existed until I started doing this quilting. So I'll check it out, and all goes well, it should be okay. So speaking of quilts, which I speak about a lot, behind me is my current quilt top. This has been designed, the patterned, not the dark blue and white patterned material, but all the other material that's in there is from my own fabric design. You've seen that material before. I made it into a bland bag at some point. Well, I ordered more of it because I really like it, and I'm making this quilt top from that. Now you can see the design. The design is my design. Those are all what they call half square triangles. And I'm going to put another wider border around the border I already have on there just to make it just a little bit bigger. And I'm going to do it in material or in fabric that's similar in design to the darker material I'm using on here, and get it all layered up and quilt it. Now this one I might try free motion quilting on it, I am going to be taking a class on that. So once I've taken the class, I may give that a shot and we'll see how that works out. And more about classes in a moment. But anyways, that's my latest project. I have been neglecting, as I've said, my art journaling and mixed media projects, but I am going to start a new mixed media project today, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that down in my tips and inspiration ideas a little later in today's vlog. So, the other things I've been up to is I've been refining my fabric design collection. I did send off, as I told you last week, some of my designs that I showed you to Northcott. I have not yet heard from them. I don't know. I'll wait another week, and if I don't hear anything in another week, then maybe I'll approach them again, but I'll approach them again with my a little bit more professional looking samples. What I've done is I've taken some of my designs and I've made coordinating solids to go with them, and I've laid them out in such a way where you can see the patterned and two samples of coordinated solids that go with them. So I think it looks a little bit more professional. Maybe that'll be more attractive to these people. I don't know. I don't know what their standards are. I may, if I hear nothing from them as well, after I do that, maybe I'll just send them another email asking them, okay, what is it that you really want? Are you looking for new designers, for one thing? And if so, is there a format or something that you want me to send them in? Their website doesn't discuss it. It just gives you an email address to send your stuff to, but that email address doesn't work. So I've been sending it to their general information one. I guess worst case scenario, if I want to be very persistent about this, and I think I will be, I think I can find a phone number and I'll just give them a call and say, hi, you know, what do I do? And, you know, again, you got to do some follow-up on these things. These are big companies. They deal with hundreds, if not thousands of emails every day about all kinds of things. So, you know, it could be just a time thing and you just have to be patient. So whatever, we'll see what happens and I'll let you know. Okay, that takes us to, I think that's all my current projects right now. Yeah, it is. That brings us to the YouTube channel of the week. It is quilting related, but I really like this lady. Her name is Leah Day. She has several books out. She's an expert in free motion quilting. She has a podcast as well, which I find very interesting just because she doesn't always deal just strictly with quilting. It's always something that is related to the sewing world, to quilting, but some of it, again, I glean inspiration from all kinds of things, and maybe you will glean some inspiration from this as well, even if you're not a quilter or a sewer. So here's my review of that of that channel. The YouTube channel of the week is Leah Day. Leah Day is a quilter. Surprise, surprise, that I should be focusing on quilting. But the one thing that I do really like about her YouTube channel is not just the instruction she gives you, how to use various blocks, how to machine quilt, all of that kind of thing. But she also has a lot of discussions about the quilting world and sewing in general. She collects antique treadle machines, and she talks about that. And she also has a companion podcast that you can find on iTunes, which goes along with this particular channel. So if you're looking for inspiration in your sewing, in your quilting, or just ideas for art in general, do check out Leah Day. Okay, so that takes us to persons of interest. Don't have any. All right. Haven't had any really interesting lengthy comments or questions written on any of my videos this week. There's been some nice comments given about things, and I always appreciate those, but those are not things that I think I really need to read in this forum with that. So I guess you know the drill, okay? Don't be shy. Moving on. Okay, video resources are below Rented Lips this morning. The latest Stephen Walter Live. Walter said after we finished the Stephen and Walter Live, just as a little aside here, Well, that was kind of boring. Yeah, I'm trying to think of some things that might spice up the lives a little, the Stephen and Walter lives a little bit more. I'm thinking of a location change. Now that the nicer weather's here, and once I get things cleaned up under our deck, that's sort of our patio area where we often sit on a summer's evening or whatever. And right now, though, it's a mess under there because, you know, it's kind of open to the air in some ways. It's enclosed, but it's open. Maybe I can explain that if we actually do one out there, what I mean by that. But it's dusty, there's dead leaves in there and things like that. So I need to get the lawn furniture that's under there, it's all wicker, pull it out onto the backyard and hose it all down. Get rid of the spiders and things that like to, you know, live there in the wintertime. And give it a thorough cleaning and vacuuming because we have it sort of carpeted, you know, those outdoor carpet kind of things out there. And once I get it all cleaned up, maybe, not sure about the lighting under there, but we'll see what we can do about that. Maybe I suggested to Walter that we do a Stephen and Walter live one Sunday afternoon out on the patio, kind of a thing. Maybe we can do different ones in different locations. I don't know. I really wish I had the ability to be able to go on the road and do a Stephen and Walter live on the road. But I can't do that. The reason being is, and many people do it, but data plans. In this country anyways, it is not cheap to have a cell phone, especially, it's not that bad if you're just using it for telephone calls, but when you start doing data on them, they charge you an arm and a leg. So for example, to do an average Stephen and Walter live, which usually run close to an hour and a half, the price would be astronomical to get enough. Well, basically, we'd need unlimited data. And, well, we're literally talking for what we would need hundreds of dollars to do just one. So that's not going to happen, obviously. And I wish I had the technology to be able to, you know, switch while we're doing live to something I've recorded previously. For example, yesterday, one of the viewers on Stephen and Walter Live wanted to know, because we were talking about our local art gallery, if I could, you know, do a video of what the art gallery's like inside. And I have done some before and put them up, but I said, yeah, next time we're in, I will try to do a more intensive video for this kind of thing. But it would be really nice if I had the technology to be able to, you know, switch like some do, just switch the camera over to a different view, to something that's been pre-recorded and all that kind of stuff. I can't do that with my setup. I'm not even sure how to do that. There is a wonderful program out there called Switcher Studio, and I downloaded the free trial of it and gave it a shot, and it works like with all your devices, and you can switch back and forth between them as long as you have a Wi-Fi connection in your house, and it works really well. But it's a monthly subscription. It is not a software program you can download, you pay once for, and you have it. You have to pay monthly for it, and it's quite pricey. If you want to see it in action, take a look at Ken's Creations YouTube. They use it. They have a very elaborate studio setup, which I know they have probably spent a lot of money on their equipment and on this subscription alone to do what they're doing. But they're actually making this into a full-time job for themselves. So they're investing basically in their business, in their livelihood by doing that. I can't justify or afford to do that kind of thing. Now, this brings us back to a discussion we had some time ago. If I had a Patreon and people sent me money to support the channel, I might be able to afford to do that. But you know my feelings about that kind of thing. You know, once you start getting money from other people, you no longer have as much control over your vlogs, over your YouTube channel, because you've got to give back to your Patreons. And I really don't want to be beholden to anyone. This costs nothing for my viewers. And as far as I'm concerned, right now, it's always going to stay free for my viewers. I get a little bit of income from the advertisements that go up on my YouTube channel. but it's, as I've discussed this before, so I don't need to go in and talk any more about that. But that's a very, very small amount of money, and I use it more or less as a way of keeping stats on, you know, how many views I'm getting on my channel. So rest assured, I am not going to be trying to get money out of anybody's hands. I'm still playing around with the technology. I love to play around with technology, and with what I already have in existence here, I might be able to do something. But there's no way I'll ever be able to take Stephen and Walter live on the road. Be anything that's outside of my house, because I won't have a connection for that. So anyways, how did I get onto that? Well, moving on, I'm just talking about the resources I've listed below. There's a couple of new idiot quilters on there if you haven't seen them already. I'm having a lot of fun doing those idiot quilters, by the way, because really they're kind of spur of the moment when I do them. I purposely make them very short. And again, it's just to highlight my failures more than anything, so that other people get a sense of, you know, not everything is always perfect when you first start out. And it isn't a bad thing, I don't think, to talk about what worked and what didn't work, especially what didn't work for you, because I think people learn from that. YouTube videos that go up that show everything in perfection form. People who are creators of YouTube videos who never show their failures, never show their mistakes, their weaknesses, I don't believe in those people. They're just too perfect. Okay? Nobody is perfect. So, you know, like, it's good to see people's weaknesses and mistakes, you know, because it's constructive for viewers, and I think it's constructive, well, at least for me when I do them, it's constructive for me too. It's sort of feedback from myself, you know, to rethink what I'm doing. And also it helps to discuss when things go wrong, because I think then you get it out there and you're not bottling it all up, and it helps you to move forward. Okay? So anyways, again, how did I get onto that? I have a link to someone called Libs Elliot, who I'm going to talk about in a few minutes. And there's another link here to Leah as well, whose YouTube channel I just reviewed for you. And then there's a link to the book that I'm going to talk about this week, Paper Transformed. So all those links are down there. And if you have any suggestions for YouTube channels or for websites or resources, books, whatever that you have found useful, send them my way and I'll review those as well, and I'll put links to them into the weekly vlogs as well. So, you know, I'm more than happy to give you a platform. Now, there might be something interesting. Maybe you could do a short little video reviewing your favorite resources. Or a favorite resource, like a YouTube channel or a website or a magazine or a book or something like that, and do a little video and send the video to me, and I could include it as part of the vlog. That might be fun. You know, it's sort of an extension of person of interest. You know, you could be a guest reviewer one week. You just have to do it. You can do it on your cell phone, and then you can just ship it to me via my email address, which is always at the end of the vlog. Just thought of that idea. Someone, please, give it a shot. What's the worst thing that can happen? You won't stink. It'll be fun. Okay? All right. So, moving on. What's pissing me off this week? Okay, I guess the big issue here, and then I've got what triggered this for me, is it's all about people's commitment to things, or lack of commitment. And here's where this comes from. And I think I may have mentioned this before. All right, I did an art journaling class, which I'll talk more about later, this weekend, my monthly one. I had a couple of people cancel. Now, these two people who canceled from my class did not cancel at the last minute. They gave me lots of warning before they canceled, and that was great. A little glare on my glasses I can see here. And they're regulars. So, you know, they're usually there. So if they cancel for a really good reason. And they're very conscientious people. However, there are some people who aren't. They, you know, when you're taking a class, if you're the instructor and you're expecting X number of people to be at the class because it's all been prearranged, they've paid for it, whatever, and then they cancel at the last minute, that really puts the instructor into a bind. I mean, first of all, there are costs involved in putting together any class. There's materials. Even though you may be charging a fee, I know in my case, I do not charge a whole lot. Part of that fee goes back to the store because I'm using their space, and that's only fair. And so when some people cancel at the last minute, it becomes a bit of an issue. Do they get their money back or not? Now, I know what the first thing is some people are going to say. No. Cancellation policy should be if you cancel for whatever reason, unless it's special circumstances, no, there's no refund. The store that I do this at, that's basically, they have that as their policy, but I think they usually give them about 48 hours. If you cancel way before 48 hours before the class, then you get a refund. Okay. If you cancel under 48 hours, then no, you may not get a refund. But they're very flexible at the store about that because, you know, certain things happen. Okay, this glare is bugging me. Okay. Hold my head up like this and you won't get it. It's the sunlight coming through my window. If you cancel for a very, you know, unexpected reason, okay, like heaven forbid, a death in the family, medical problems, whatever, then okay, there's got to be a little leeway here because these people didn't cancel unintentionally. They were fully committed. Just sometimes acts of God happen. So I get that. That's okay. But other times people just decide, it's a nice day outside. I really don't feel like going to this class. I'll just cancel. Well, no. You have to think about what goes into those classes, the planning, the time, the preparation of materials, things like that. And that's extremely annoying. But what that made me think about and what I'm pissed off is how people today have a real lack of commitment to anything. You know, we have had people that we have invited for a dinner party to our house. And we usually plan way in advance for that kind of thing because people are busy, especially if you're having it on a weekend and when the weather gets nicer, people, you know, are here, there, and everywhere. So I usually give people, you know, a month or more when I send out the invitation. And I expect them to let me know within a reasonable amount of time. I figure 1 or 2 days, they should be able to make a commitment one way or the other. I have some people, though, that I have invited in the past that I do not get a commitment until almost the day before the event. Doesn't help with your planning. And I also hate nagging them. Are you coming or are you not coming? You sound sort of needy. Okay. I've had other people who have actually at the last minute, an hour before the arrival time, have called up and said, oh, I'm so sorry. We can't make it now. Something came up. My first reaction to that is, I hope it's a death. Okay, that sounds bad. But, I mean, you get my point. Like, I've already prepared. All right? If I'm having people to my place, it's not just thrown together. Okay? It's a lot of preparation that I do for it because I want people to have a good time. I want them to feel welcome with it. And it's not just a question of the food, but I also plan other events when people come to my place. So, you know, I don't appreciate that. Now, again, you can't account for acts of God. All right? This happened. That happened. You know, and you know, those are things that just nobody could plan for. But the ones who leave you on the hook because something better came up at the last minute. So how does that make you feel when that happens to you? And it's happened to me on more than one occasion. Okay, We are kind of plan B. If we have nothing better that night to do, we can always show up at Steve's place. No. I mean, a true friend doesn't do that. And, you know, quite frankly, I have figured out who my true friends are from that kind of situation. And needless to say, they don't get another invitation after that. But it's that whole commitment idea. Or when you're supposed to be going out for lunch. Now, this happens to Walter a lot. He goes out usually once a month to a bunch of people he used to work with that are also retired, and they have a little luncheon. Well, they kind of rotate who makes the actual plans, like the reservations as to where they're going for lunch, the picking the spot, letting everybody know by email where we're going, what time, this kind of stuff. And he has people that just don't show up. They don't let him know that they're not going to show up. They just turn around and say, and just don't show up. Well, that's embarrassing in a restaurant. You get into a busy restaurant, you've made a reservation for, say, 10 people, 6 show up. That does not look good on you. And the restaurant, those receipts that they saved, they're losing business. Those were 4 spots that they could have filled with bodies that are going to pay. They're not a charity. So that's just inconsiderate for one thing or another. Again, sometimes things happen at the very last minute where you can't get a hold of somebody to let them know. But then contact them as soon as you possibly can to let them know, I'm so sorry. This is what happened. I feel bad about it, you know, kind of a thing. But I see this all the time. People who arrive late, to me, that's a commitment issue as well. You know, you call, there are some friends of ours who I know will be chronically late. So I purposely tell them a different time. And then they'll be there on time. Except they're getting wise to me about that now. But you know, that again, okay, that's something that's inside of them. It's part of their personality. They're not really doing it on purpose. I guess I just have to adapt to it in that case. But they're good friends. So I know this is going to happen, and we make it into a bit of a joke, okay? But people that I don't know as well about their habits, I've had some people show up an hour and a half late. I'm holding dinner, waiting for them. No phone call, no explanation. Maybe they got caught in traffic somewhere. Okay, everybody's got a cell phone, pretty much. Anyways, at least the people I know do. You got my number, give us a call. Let us know, send us a text saying, so sorry, we're caught in a traffic jam. And that happens in our area a lot because there's a lot of traffic here, okay? But you know, it's commitment. Don't just leave people hanging. I don't. I'm very conscious of that. And maybe that's my problem in the fact that I expect other people to be as conscientious about this kind of thing as I am. When we say that we're going to be at some place, you know, if we accept an invitation, I accept the invitation within 24 hours or less. Usually it's almost immediately. I'll look at my calendar and go, no, we have nothing planned that day. Great, thank you. Now, I've had times where we've been called up with something else like hours before and say, hey, what are you doing? Why don't you come to this? And quite frankly, I would rather do that. But no, I made a commitment to this other thing and I'm going to go to it. It's just not fair to those people. And I'll give you an example. Years ago, there were 2 ladies that we knew, and they weren't really good friends. We had just met them at certain things and we became social with them, and we invited them to dinner. And actually, no, what happened was, there was 2 incidents here, sorry, getting things mixed up. We had made a commitment to go to dinner with some friends of ours. At about 2 hours before we were to leave, we got a call from these other friends of ours, these 2 ladies, who said, we're going to go such and such a place, why don't you join us? And we said, well, no, sorry, we have a commitment tonight. We're going, you know, out with these other people or something like that. Their answer to that was, well, just blow them off. Tell them you're sick or something and come with us. No, that's not going to happen. And, well, needless to say, we're not friends with these 2 women anymore. Anyways, well, they're both a couple of lesbians. And, well, don't get me on that. There's a topic for another day. That would be a good Stephen and Walter topic. Yeah. How lesbians differ from gay men and Well, okay, I'm digress. I'll leave that as a little teaser for maybe a Stephen and Walter live one day. But anyways, we wouldn't do that. We made a commitment. We're sticking to it. So I guess that's what's pissing me off this week, and what generated this was because, you know, I had some people cancel from a class, and I'm not pissed off at them because they did the right thing. They had something that, you know, was important to them that they had to be at or whatever, but they gave lots of advanced warning. So, you know, no. But, you know, it doesn't always work that way. Okay, that's enough about what's pissing me off this week. Let's see, product reviews. Okay, I picked up finally. I've had these on order since January and finally was able to get them. In fact, I forgot what they even look like. There are two stamp sets from Stampers Anonymous. One is called the Inventor 1, and I think it's a really cool glare stamp set, as you can see. It's very industrial, steampunky, and that's the kind of thing I like. So this will make great background on a art journal page or whatever. And similarly with this one called Inventor 2. Again, very industrial, steampunky, that kind of thing. Of course, they're all Tim Holtz designs as well, but I got to figure out what I'm going to use these for yet, but they're just cool. And what else? Just checking my notes here. Oh, okay. The other thing I got this week is the knife blade for the Cricut maker, their most elaborate and newest machine. Now, the one reason I bought a Cricut maker a year and a half ago when it came out was because they said that they would have this adaptive technology and they were going to come out with what they called a knife blade that would cut through chipboard. So stuff like this. This one's not such a good example because I kind of blew it, but this kind of stuff, okay, out of chipboard. A Cricut with its ordinary knife, even its deep cut blade, cannot cut chipboard. All right. So everybody, I think, who bought probably the Cricut maker bought it because of that. The other adaptive tool they had was the rotary blade for cutting fabric, which does work very well, and it came with the machine when I ordered it. And that's been great too. And probably when I get more into appliques, that's going to come in really handy. But I really wanted the knife blade. They kept saying that it was coming out last October. Then it was December, and then radio silence. Everybody was asking everybody else on YouTube channels that deal with Cricut products if they knew when it was coming out. Nobody knew. And then suddenly last week or so, they revealed it was now available. So I immediately ordered it. And I'll say one thing for Cricut. You get your orders fast, at least if you live here in North America. I know there's problems in other parts of the world, like in the UK and that, from what people have told me. I guess it has to do with the fact that they're an American company and there isn't any distributors, or very few distributors of their products in, you know, Europe and that kind of thing. But anyways, I got it on Friday, so I was putting it through its tests, and it does work very well. But one problem with it: speed. To cut this out took over 12 minutes. I cut out, and I haven't got it here to show you, but I tried it out on a much larger and more intricate piece. It was about a 6x6 piece, and it had a lot of curves and things like that. It was sort of butterflies on a branch. That one took 3 hours and 40 minutes to cut. Now why, you might ask? Because the blade does 20 passes along the whole thing, and it doesn't move very fast. And with each pass, I think what it's doing is it makes the blade slightly go deeper into the material. That way it's not bogging down in the material. It's, you know, making a path for it. But yeah, that took a long time. Now that was extreme, but I tried to cut out, and actually I'll show you here, I'll show you a fail. This was a very thick piece. Now it says it will cut through up to 2 millimeters, and I have no idea how thick that is. This one took over, what was it, an hour almost 2 hours to cut, and it did not cut all the way through. Now, it cut some of it all the way through, but not enough. Now, if it doesn't cut all the way through, you can do something else called an additional pass, but it's just one more cut through it. I didn't do that on this one. Maybe if I had, it would have finished off. It almost cut all the way through. But again, this is a very thick material, and it may be more my fault. But just to do this, 6 little simple butterflies, it took almost 2 hours to do that. So it works very well. It's supposed to cut mat board, 4-ply mat board. Melanie Lane shows it on her YouTube channel, and it does do that. And it did it very well. And it's supposed to cut, they call it basswood, I call it balsa wood. I don't know if they're the same thing or what, but the really thin wood. So maybe later today or sometime this week, I'm going to go over to Michael's. I'm going to get some mat board, and I'm going to get some of this balsa wood, and I'm going to try it on that as well. See, the reason I wanted the knife blade is because I want to be able to cut my own chipboard embellishments that I can paint and that kind of thing. And yeah, it works. It does cut. There are some quirks to it, as with any piece of technology, but you have to have what they call a strong grip mat, which I have several of those. They're really, really sticky, because that kind of material is, on an ordinary mat, it's just going to slide around. Plus, they also recommend that you take something like masking tape or painter's tape and tape it down to the mat, which I did do. And again, because it could lift up and then you're screwed. But it's the time element. So you plan ahead. Don't try to cut something at the last minute with it, because it's not going to happen. You got to give it lots of time. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be standing over top of the machine as it's cutting. You can go away and do something else, but it is going to take a long time. So anyways, if you're thinking of buying one, a Cricut maker, or if you already have a Cricut maker and you want the knife blade, that's sort of my review on the knife blade. I did buy a spare blade for it as well at the same time. I have no idea how long a blade will stay sharp on these. I'm a little worried that out of the little bit that I have cut, that it's already dulling, and maybe that's why I didn't cut all the way through that, because that wasn't that much thicker than what I cut through when I cut this. Let me compare here. Well, it might be slightly denser, but I don't know. So, I mean, if it dulls that quick, a replacement blade is not particularly cheap if you have to replace them all the time. I think they were something like $16 or something like that, US. So, I'll see. I'll check this out. I'm still experimenting with it. But right now, I'm okay with it. The speed issue, you just have to live with that. Okay, so that was all that was new this week that I have. Let's see, what's up next here? Book review. Okay, again from my stash. Again, another book that I must have looked through and just put on my shelf, and with intentions of doing something. I know I had intentions of doing something because I've put a little sticky here, and I often do that when I get a new book. But this one's called Paper Transformed. It's by, who's it by? Julia Andrus. It's called Paper Transformed, a handbook of surface design, recipes, and creative paper projects. So it's kind of a book full of different ideas, some tags, different techniques, things like that. It's probably why I bought it, because of the techniques. Some interesting stuff. Now let's just see what page I marked. Oh, Luminous Marbling, it's called. Oh, it's very pretty. Paper, perfect ink refresher, perfect pearls, paper towel, paintbrush, fine mist spray bottle. Oh, I've got to try this one today. I have all those products. So, okay. This might be fun. I'm just looking at this as a background technique too. Looks pretty here. I'll have to try it out. But the link is below for this book, and at the time that I paid for it $29.99 Canadian, but I saw it on Amazon, and I think I linked it to Amazon.com, and I think they had it down to like $13 and something US. So I guess it pays to buy these books later, because the price seems to get cheaper on them, at least on Amazon. So you might want to look this one up. Lots of great ideas. Glare. So sorry about the glare. I need to do these videos a little later in the day, or at least black out my windows. I don't know which. Okay, so inspiration for this week. All right, this came from actually one of the Stampington magazines. I got thinking about this. There's this trend right now. Well, there was about a month or so ago. I noticed people doing something called reverse canvases, and they were pulling the canvas off the stretch canvas off a frame. And they're pulling out the staples, pulling the canvas off, turning the frame around, and putting the canvas back on to make a shadow box. At least I think that's what they were doing. I'll have to check that again. But I got thinking, why do you need to take the canvas off? Just turn it around, upside down, and then you've got a shadow box. Yes, the underside of a canvas is unfinished. You see the staples, you see the wood and the whole bit, but all you need is take some gesso, put a couple of coats of gesso on it, and then you can cover it up with paint or with whatever you're using and that kind of thing. So thinking about that and thinking about the knife blade, I'm thinking I might do what I'm going to call a shadow box canvas, where I'll paint it all first, and then I'll use like things that I cut out from chipboard. I'll decorate and build up layers in this, and that kind of spring out of the shadow box as well. So a 3D effect that, uses the upside down canvas as the actual framing for it. Now, I would like to pretend that this is a completely original idea to me, but it is not. I was inspired by this idea by Miriam Small Art, who I've reviewed before. Marta is her name. And Marta's videos are always excellent, and she's always doing really creative things. And I saw her doing this, using leftover pieces of junk she had from her stash, and she just turned a small stretch canvas frame up backwards, upside down, painted it with a little gesso and other stuff. It came out beautiful. So I'm going to give that one a try, but my flip on it's going to be, I'm going to make many of the embellishments, or what I'm thinking of doing right now, make my own chipboard embellishments and things I want to put in it using my Cricut maker and the knife blade. So that's the reason why I want to go out and get some mat board and some of the balsa wood and try this. So we'll see what happens. And I'll probably do a process video about that as I work on it, and you'll be able to see it as well. That'll take me a few days before I get that done. Okay. Events in the past week. Everybody knows what Costco is, at least if you live in North America, but I think they have Costco's around the world. Costco's a big, huge box store that you pay a membership fee for, a yearly membership, and you get, mass quantities of spaghetti sauce and canned mushrooms and paper products and you name it, and they always have something new for, a lot better price than if you just go to a regular retail store. Well, they also have specialty Costco stores for business. So we decided to go to one of the business Costcos just to see what they're like in comparison to a regular Costco. And they have a lot of the same stuff, but they also have a lot of stuff that people who have businesses like restaurant businesses or convenience stores or things like that, that you can buy in quantity. For example, in cooking utensils, you can get trays, huge trays that would be meant for industrial ovens. You can get, industrial strength cooking utensils, things like that. You can get cases of, paper plates, paper cups, beer mugs, things like that. That usually are things meant for the restaurant business. If you were throwing a huge party though, this would be a good place to go. And you can just use your regular membership, no problem. So we went to the one in Scarborough and looked around, and it was really interesting. Did I buy anything? Yeah, I did. I bought one big aluminum tray, meant for cooking, like cookies or jelly roll pan. I think they call it a jelly roll pan. But it wouldn't fit, of course. I didn't buy it for cooking. I bought it for acrylic paint pouring, which I haven't done much of lately, to catch the drips. Because what I was using before were trays, but they were much smaller. The big one would be good, especially if you're using a bigger canvas. It was a $6.99 Canadian for it. I thought that was a pretty good price. And I needed a new whisk. And they had industrial style whisks, like heavy duty whisks, for $4.99. The whisks I have here, I paid more for, and they're falling apart. They splay all out in the whole bit. These ones are much stronger, have a reinforcement at the top so they won't splay out. And for $4.99, can you go wrong? No. That's all we bought that day, but we didn't really need a block of cheese this big and this thick. Okay, like, could have got it though, and it was a good price. We didn't need big slabs of meat. Like, we could have got half a lamb if we'd wanted that. Yeah, not sure where we'd be putting that. But things like that. But as I said, it's all geared towards, you know, restaurant business and that kind of thing. But it was interesting to see. And what else did I do this week? Art journal class what's coming. No, I did my art journaling class, my monthly one. We did the interactive art journal pages, which there's a video here on my YouTube that shows you what I did with that. And the ladies there, the regulars, there's a couple of them that are big into ATCs, artist trading cards, and they always make them. They usually bring me one every class, and I've got a whole collection of them now, and I have them mounted in a special place on my wall in my craft room. And they set up a group so they could exchange them. At the beginning of class, the people in my class who want to do that, they can, and so a lot of them did do it. And I got a few of them that they gave me, which, oops, there it goes. They had a theme. It was joy for this one, and this is really pretty. And then, you know, little frog here, jump for joy. And this one glows in the dark, apparently. I haven't tried it yet, but it's made out of something that glows in the dark. So they're really cute. Personally, I don't really get into making ATCs. I don't know why. I guess it's just because they're small, you know, kind of a thing. And I like something a little larger. I'm a size queen, what can I say? And but you know, they're really cute. So they're doing this as part of the class each time. They're kind of running that part of the show. So that's great. We went to RMG Fridays, talked about this on Stephen Walter Live. It's just where we go monthly and lob off people's fingers and tell them they can't drink in certain parts of the art gallery, things like that. So yeah, there's not much to say about that. There were one thing to say, just, you know, lately I've been talking about sexism and stuff like that. Well, here's something I didn't expect to hear from a woman. 4 ladies tried to get into one part of the gallery with their wine glasses, which they weren't allowed to do. So Walter and I sort of made a beeline for them and said, sorry, you can't have your wine in here. And one said, oh, we didn't see anything that said you couldn't. Well, there are signs. No, they're not huge. Okay, you could miss the sign. I could see that. I said, well, actually, and I pointed out where the sign was. There is a sign. And this lady turned around and said, well, I'm a woman. We're women. We don't read. We can't read. Whoa, hold the door on that one. If I had said that as a man, I would be considered making a sexist comment, but because they said it, they thought it was cute. So being the kind of person I am with sense of humor I've got, and I said, well, you know, me too. And they kind of went, you know, because about the whole Me Too thing, he says, oh, too soon? Anyways, you can put your glasses over there. They tried to sneak them in, though, in other times, too, but we got them. Yeah, maybe it was starting to become a bit of a game. Personally, I think that they should be allowed to carry their wine around with them anywhere in the gallery on these nights, because that's part of the atmosphere that's there. You know, you got your glass of wine, you're looking at art, you're feeling very cultured. But the curator said no. Now, it's not like these people are going to take their wine glass and throw it against the art. I mean, to date, and we've been doing these for a couple of years now, we've really not seen there hasn't even been really an accident that I know of. I mean, it has the potential, but no art has been destroyed. And the ironic part of it of this is the curator was doing a talk about one of the new installations that night. Everybody came into the installation with their wine glass, and she said nothing. So we're the ones that have to do the dirty job. And when we saw them all going in there, we went, hell with that. They want to take their wine into her talk and she's not saying anything, fine by us. So we let that go. So anyways, that was Friday night. I went to a Quilters Guild. This will be my last one until October because they have it once a month. But the June one is their annual meeting. I am not yet a member, so I can't go to that one. And then they don't start up again until October. By then I will be a member. The only reason I'm not a member right now is because it was at the end of the year. I've only been to one other. And they recommend, it's kind of pointless to join now and pay the fee when there's only, 2 more meetings kind of a thing. Why not wait till the fall when we start up again, which makes perfect sense. So I will join. I was the only guy again amongst about 100 women, but they had a guest speaker, this young lady who doesn't look anything like a quilter. She is tattooed from here down, arms, the whole bit, just covered in tattoos, but she makes these most beautiful modern quilts. She even has a line of fabric that are picked up by main manufacturers of quilting supplies and things like that. And she was really interesting. Her technique, how she does things, and her quilts are beautiful, very artistic. And that's what I'm aiming towards as I go through this quilting journey. So she was really interesting. And because she's so interesting, I've put a link to her. Her name is Libs Elliot. She has a website, and I've put that link in the show notes below. You might want to check her out because she has some really interesting quilts to look at, and which are pieces of art. They are genuinely pieces of art, so you might want to check that out. Ultimate Sewing, my local quilting store, had their spring open house where you can sign up for classes, and I was determined that I was going to sign up for, I had 4 classes at least that I knew I'd probably want to sign up for, but they don't tell you what classes they're offering until the night before the open house. The open house is on Saturday. They put out Friday night their list of classes, I guess to keep it fair. So you can't sign up in advance. You have to show up at the open house to sign up. And there's a little form to fill out for this. So I knew this, and I knew there'd be probably a lineup before the store opened. So at 9 o'clock, the store doesn't open until 10, I drove down there, parked right in front of the store, had my coffee in my hand, my book in my other hand, and sat on the hood of my car and waited for the store to open. And I was first in line. And I already had pre-made up little tags that had the name of the class, because the email came through on Friday night. I picked the 4 classes I wanted, put all that information on a little ticket along with my name and my phone number, because that's all stuff I knew that they would want. So I had them ready to go. I didn't have to worry about signing up for it or what, and standing in line waiting for it and hoping I'd get the classes, because they have a small classroom. I think they can only handle about 8 people in a class. So I was determined. While I was sitting there, at about 9:30, a lady and her daughter came, and we got talking. We had an interesting conversation, but I did make it very clear I was first to go in. And then other ladies start to come and line up. So here I am, the only man, about 10, 12 ladies lined up at the door waiting for it to open. So I thought I should just say to them, break the ice a little bit, because women look at you funny until they know who you are when you're a man in a woman's environment. So I just turned around and said, ladies, okay, ladies, they're about to open up the door. Just a reminder, I am first, and there will be bloodletting. Okay? Don't make me stick you with the pins in my bag. Okay? And they kind of laughed at that. And I said, and this is a case here where usually I believe ladies first, but not today. I'm first. And they laughed at that. They're a nice group of people with it. I think quilters are probably the nicest people in the world, really. Scrapbookers are really nice too. So I got in, gave the lady who was looking after the sign-ups for the classes my little tickets. Kind of threw her off. She didn't really know what to do with these. And I said to her, well, you can just staple them to your main form. And I brought a stapler. And the other ladies in the store were laughing at this because they go, oh, that's the teacher in them. And I said, yes, because I'm determined. to be in these classes that I've picked. And so she just taped them down and everything was fine. So I'm taking 4 classes. I'm taking, actually, most of these classes I won't be actually doing a quilt on them. I wanted some technique classes. So I'm taking 2 classes about my sewing machines. One about my new sewing machine, how to use it. I figured, you know, yeah, I could read the documentation, but I'm a man. We don't read instructions or ask for directions, okay? How to use my serger. That one I'm really looking forward to. I've got my serger all ready to go. I had it all cleaned up and the timing repaired on it, and it's ready to go for that. Taking one that's a boot camp for basic quilting, where I think they're going to show us some tips and tricks about things like your seam allowances, your pressing, things like that. I mean, I know this stuff, but I'd like to be in a class to, you know, because I'm sure I'll learn something that I don't know. And also, they're going to look at traditional blocks. And I think it's good for a foundation, you know, to learn the foundation. I kind of leapt ahead in quilting. I need to back up a track, okay? And the other one is about, and this is the one I'm looking forward to the most, how to do free motion quilting. That one, I so wanted that class. I got it. Great. Because I suck at free motion quilting right now. I know it takes some practice, but I am sure there are things that I am not doing that I should know how to do. So I'm happy about that. And they'll start in about another week and a half's time and run until, with all the classes, until about the first week or so into July. So I'm going to be busy taking a lot of classes. Okay, so what's coming up? Well, I'm teaching a card class at the art gallery on Thursday night. Again, we're going to do some jelly plate layered kinds of cards. And again, commitment here goes back to what I was pissed off before. I have no idea how many I'm going to have in the class. There's a sign up for it online from the art gallery. To date, only about 4 people have signed up, but that doesn't mean I can handle up to 15. But last time it was like suddenly I was expecting like 7 or 8, and I got 4 extras, and I was planning for the 7 or 8. Luckily, I make extra packages of stuff, but suddenly they all appeared at the last minute. And I just started the class, I had to stop, get them set up, and that's not fair to the other people. So that goes back to my whole thing about commitment. You know, they don't think, some people just don't think that when things are being put on for you, there's a certain amount of prep and planning that go into them. So you should be considerate of that. Anyways, this time they're not going to catch me off guard. I am prepared for 15. I've got everything set up. I will set up for 15. And if only 8 show up, that's fine. I don't have to interrupt the class. There we go. And if all the spots are filled, okay, not a problem. I'm prepared for that. So I guess that's how you get around people who are non-committal. Prepare for the worst and hope for the best. Okay, and of course Mother's Day is coming up, and now I'm in a dilemma, and I need to solve this dilemma today. What are we going to do for Mother's Day? First of all, to take my mother out for dinner on Mother's Day itself, there are a lot of logistics here that just don't work. 1, her mobility is not good, as you know. 2, that's the worst time to take anybody out because everybody and their dog is taking their mothers out. And most of the restaurants need a reservation, and a lot of them have fixed menus at exorbitant prices because it's the occasion and they're taking advantage of it. So that's not going to happen. The other thing is I could have my mother here for dinner and, you know, invite my sister. She's a mother as well. But 1, I'm not sure what my sister's plans are yet. So I'm thinking of going this route, and she'd be bringing my mother over because she only lives a mile away from my mother, whereas I live 25 minutes away from my mother. And so that's fine. But it's Mother's Day. Maybe her kids, which are pretty much grown up, you know, they're university kind of thing, they may have plans of their own for their mother. So I don't know what's going on, and I'll have to get some idea from my sister. So I'll be sending her an email probably today to find out what's going on with that, or whether she knows. The other alternative is that we pop over there and bring dinner, kind of a thing, to my mother's place. That's okay too, but the problem is, you know, you got to lug all this stuff over there. It's not like I'm going to cook at my mother's place, so it's probably going to be like takeout of some sort with it. And, you know, we have to clean up, set it up, all that kind of stuff. It is extra work. out of it all, but you know, gotta do something on Mother's Day for your mothers. I do hate Mother's Day and Father's Day. The reason being is it's not like I need a day in the year to honor my mother or my father. My father's passed away now, so I don't have to worry about Father's Day anymore. But it puts stress on me all the time because you got to go out and get a nice card, get some kind of gift. And you know, the thing is, at least in North America, this has all been inspired by the card companies. It's just a way of selling more things. But everybody makes you feel so damn guilty. So this is my final thoughts today about Mother's Day and Father's Day. I love my mother. You know that. I will do whatever I need to do for my mother. But if you don't do something on Mother's Day for Mother's Day, you are the worst son, child in history in the eyes of everybody else in the world. You're not honoring your mother. Your mother gave you life, gave you birth. And I've said this before. You know, I don't remember being there at the time of conception and having a say in it. Not my fault. Okay? Not my fault. But, however, it's still Mother's Day. So, you know, I'm going to do something, of course, for my mother. But I wish they should have a Sunday. Oh, every day is Children's Day. Yeah, right. You know, I don't have any children, you know, my choice on that one. I get it. To do things for me. The card companies tried to, at one time, establish an Uncle's Day and an Aunt's Day, again, to sell more cards. I don't think those ever took off, kind of a thing. So, you know, it kind of reminds me of an old song. What have you done for me lately? I think it was a Janis Jackson one. Oh, well, don't go that route. Okay, so anyways, we'll see what happens and we'll do something for my mother. And I'll tell you about it next week. Okay, on that note, I think it's time to say bye-bye. Hope you have a great week. Hope those of you that are mothers have a great Mother's Day. And we'll see you later. Bye-bye.